On the big day, Alex's old flame, Lisa, made a surprise appearance. She showed up with her family, crashing the ceremony to spill the beans about a secret she'd once begged me to keep. She claimed she didn't want to live with regrets from her youth. Back before the college entrance exams, she was heading abroad for medical treatment and had pleaded with me not to tell Alex, worried it would mess up his focus. When Alex found out the truth, he accused me of scheming to keep them apart. Just before stepping into the hall, he grabbed me by the neck and snarled, "So this was your plan all along? I'm not gonna let you get away with it." Amid the pushing and shoving, I was shoved down the stairs. Shards of broken glass pierced my carotid artery and I bled out. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Lisa had asked me to keep her secret. Half asleep, I was jolted awake by her voice. "Maya, Mom said she bought the plane tickets. We're leaving for treatment abroad tomorrow." I glanced at the old wall clock. It was 1:30 in the morning. I looked down at the cramped cot that served as my bed. Ever since Lisa moved into our house, she'd taken over my room. Mom said it was temporary, but I ended up sleeping on that rickety recliner from junior year all the way through senior year. Funny how fate plays out. The phantom pain in my neck and the haunting feeling of bleeding out still clung to me, making my breath quicken. Lisa seemed miffed that I hadn't responded. She gave my shoulder a firm tap. "Maya, I'm talking to you. Can you hear me?" Snapping back to reality, I met her expectant gaze. Without thinking twice, I swung my hand and slapped her hard. The sharp crack echoed in the silent room. She's always been so self-absorbed, only thinking of herself. In my last life, I'd stupidly put up with it, soaking up her negativity for over an hour, and ended up taking my first exam with a pounding headache. She was the one who asked me to keep her plans a secret, said it wouldn't hurt to wait, didn't want to distract Alex, he'd find out eventually. She acted like it was no big deal, but no sane person would think that way. We all thought that was behind us. She stayed abroad, living her life. Love, marriage, kids. Alex and I got together during her 3rd year overseas. He was the one who pursued me. Lisa even sent me a text wishing me well before the wedding. Yet there she was at my wedding, reminiscing with the man who was about to become my husband. Judging me, the one who kept her secret all those years. Did planes stop flying? Did all communication just fail between them? They didn't end up together, and somehow it was all my fault. Did I make Alex chase after me? Did I make them lose touch when she went abroad? Did I cut off all their lines of communication? Did I orchestrate Lisa's smooth journey from love to marriage to motherhood? After I slapped her, she hesitated for a moment before exploding. "Maya, are you crazy? How dare you hit me?" I stood up, and before she could react, I slapped her again. "Not, if I'm gonna hit you, why wait for the right moment?" Her leg was seriously messed up. She could barely hobble around. No match for me. Before long, I had her pinned to the ground, letting out all my pent-up frustration. I truly had enough. Lisa was my cousin, my uncle's daughter. Her parents split when she was young. Mom always said she was pitiful and told me to give in to her more. She lived with us from 2nd grade until she finished elementary school. Those 4 years were a living nightmare. I felt like her personal servant, a 24/7 nanny, even though we were only 6 months apart. If Lisa didn't do her homework, it was somehow my fault. I was selfish, only thinking of myself. When she got into fights at school and parents had to step in, I was blamed for not stopping her. When she stole money, I was accused of jealousy when I told her mom. And it didn't stop there. When her mom finally took her back after elementary school, I thought the nightmare was over. But then she reappeared in high school, and the horror show started all over again. By then, my uncle had passed away, and Mom became even more overbearing, saddling me with Lisa once more. Any issue Lisa had became my responsibility, more so than her own guardian's duty. Like when she insisted on riding a motorbike despite being too short, ending up fracturing her leg and possibly causing a lifelong limp. Mom blamed me for not watching over her and beat me with a clothes hanger, snapping 3 of them. My arm still aches when I lift it. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, and I kept hitting her. With each slap, her face swelled. Just then, my parents finally showed up. Lisa's own mom couldn't stand our shabby house and was staying at a nearby hotel. Maybe Lisa couldn't bear to part with her full-time personal nanny, so she threw one last tantrum. Mom yanked me up and shoved me hard. I lost my footing and hit my head against a cabinet. Touching my head, my hand came away bloody. She looked genuinely shocked, hesitating before saying, "Maya, what's gotten into you in the middle of the night?" Still the same, never on my side. Across lifetimes, grievances piled up. I snapped. Wiping the blood from my forehead and smearing it across my face, I started pulling my hair and screaming, "Yeah, I'm crazy, driven mad by all of you." Did I ask to be born? Tomorrow's my college entrance exam, and she wakes me up in the middle of the night to hear her dumb love stories. I can't even refuse. What is your brother's daughter so special? Am I supposed to be her slave, her maid? I'm not inferior. It's this messed up life that makes me feel that way. I kept shouting, shaking my mom. She stood there stunned, holding her precious niece. She couldn't meet my eyes and muttered, "Mom didn't mean that. Lisa's still ill. Why are you arguing with her?" How dare I? How could someone like me dare to argue with Mom's noble niece? Maybe I'm not your real daughter, but even if I'm not, can't you show some decency? I've got my college entrance exam tomorrow. Can't you cut me some slack? I'm begging you, please. Family, we're supposed to be family, that's rich. Mom was about to hit me. I stepped back, bowed quickly, and kept repeating, "Please show some kindness, I'm begging you." This was her own tactic turned on her. Whenever I'd complain about her favoring Lisa, she'd either cry loudly, accusing me of ingratitude, or kneel down and say, "It's all my fault for bringing you into this world to suffer. I can't give you a good life. Go find another family." Where could a kid under 10 go? I could only stand there, letting her finish her act, absorbing all her negativity. Dad finally spoke up, pulling me up and saying, "Maya, it's late. How long are you going to make a scene?" I looked up and grinned. "Wow, Dad, you can talk? I thought you were invisible in this house." My sarcasm left him speechless. He looked like he wanted to blow up, but after glancing at the clock, it was nearly 2 a.m. He just shooed Mom and Lisa out. "You've got your exam tomorrow. Get some sleep." I stayed silent, face cold. Once they left, I slammed the door and locked it. Sleep was impossible. Even if I slept till dawn, I couldn't take the exam. It's been 7 years since I last took it. I'm so over this. Who wants to relive that? Why couldn't I just take the test and then come back? I'm fed up. If I bomb the exam, those two won't have it easy either. Didn't you blame me in the last life for holding you back? This time, I'll be the perfect martyr, fulfilling your dreams. Whether Alex notices or not is up to fate. Honestly, my neck still hurts. If I wasn't worried about causing a scene, I'd call him right now. Tell him to hurry up. His sweetheart is heading abroad, or else I'll turn into some three-headed monster to block their epic love. But in the dead of night, I just posted a vague update. My phone was falling apart. Lisa had broken it, and Mom had to give it to me. I'd saved up to fix it, being woken by that mad woman last night to hear her love story. She probably thought she wouldn't see me once she went abroad. After posting, I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. Maybe I'd never vented like this before, but after letting it out, I slept till dawn. Felt much better. I turned on my phone. Alex had been calling non-stop since last night. Great. I hope he does worse than me today. Seeing him frustrated makes me feel better. "Maya, what's going on? What happened to Lisa? Maya, don't you have basic manners? What's with your post? Are you so malicious you want to ruin someone's exam? Why is he acting like he can't read? Or am I just a glitch in their love story? Do they have to drag me in to explain? Is it that hard to understand? Am I your parent? Do I owe you answers?" He called back quickly. "Maya?" I never thought my name could sound so bitter. "Why are you calling me Dad? Blowing up my phone in the middle of the night? Didn't your parents teach you manners? Now you come running to me?" "Maya, my patience has limits." I hung up right there. "I gave you a chance, and now you're talking about patience? Is Alex always this uptight? Besides trying to kill me in my last life, being around him now feels like having a criminal record." The phone kept ringing. After some thought, I answered. "Maya, where's Lisa?" "Who do you think you're talking to? Do I owe you something? Why should I care where she is, and why should I tell you?" "Maya, even if I don't know how we've upset you, please tell me, okay? It's really important." Pathetic. That's your attitude when asking for help? Why don't you call your dad and see? Oh, you don't want to? Fine, let's part ways. You must have multiple personalities. So little love. Why fake deep emotions? He hung up, frustrated. Starting the morning with a good argument felt oddly satisfying. After getting ready, I planned to grab some noodles before heading to the exam center. Thanks to Lisa's antics last night, my so-called loving parents probably felt guilty. They left me money for breakfast. In my last life, I made myself breakfast, feeling dizzy and foggy because my parents had gone early to see Lisa off. The morning test was for language arts. Even though I'd forgotten a lot from high school, it was my native tongue, so I managed. I finished quickly and was the first out of the exam hall. Every year, the media interviewed the first student to exit. At the corner of the stairs, I deliberately reopened the wound on my forehead, letting more blood flow. Covering my forehead with one hand, I ran toward the exit. Throughout the interview, I kept smiling. I said I felt hopeful about life. Once I went to college, I wouldn't have to endure beatings because of my cousin. This interview quickly went viral. If I'd just played the victim, maybe it wouldn't have gained traction. But I wanted contrast. The night before the exam, the daughter disturbed by others, the mother who hurt her own child for someone else's. Going to college meant no longer being beaten. My mom quickly became infamous. Back in the neighborhood, people pointed and whispered. At lunchtime, when I returned home, I ran into her furious gaze. Maya, what did you mean by those things you said to the reporter? What did you mean? What's wrong? Mom, your precious is going abroad. Are you still going to hit me? Maya, she slapped me. I wasn't dumb anymore. I refused to stand there and take it. I smiled provocatively. Looks like Mom doesn't love Lisa that much after all. Not going abroad to take care of her? Mom's love is fading? You need to step up, or Lisa's parents might divorce. She'll be so pitiful. And, Maya, how far are you going to take this? Us poor kids who no one cares about can't even speak the truth. Unlike Lisa, whose parents are divorced but still have loving parents rushing to care for her. Why can't we just endure a bit? I sat down, propping my head up, looking at them. Maya, aren't you finished causing trouble yet? What about your manners? Dad slammed his hand on the table, while Mom sat calmly. What's wrong? Lisa has left, and now you don't even look at me properly. I retorted as I got up to leave. Mom followed me out, grabbing my arm. Her voice was hoarse with anger. Maya, am I still wronging you for giving birth to you? Is this how you treat me? I struggled to break free. Her grip tightened, pinching my arm painfully. My head, possibly from the previous injury, was spinning. Dazed, I lost balance, and she pushed me down the stairs. In a flash, scenes from past lives flooded my mind. Instinctively, I touched my neck. I'd been reborn. This wasn't a wedding scene. The old staircase had no glass. Then came a violent impact, my knee hitting the steps. Intense pain shot through me. My white pants were soaked in blood. I curled up, crying out from the agony. Dad rushed down in a panic. Maya, are you okay? I looked at them coldly and started laughing. I'm not dead yet. Mom and Dad still need to try harder. Our commotion attracted neighbors. A kind neighbor took me to the hospital. The scene was chaotic, with people criticizing my parents. Mom, enraged, slammed the door. I felt nothing, as if I'd gone numb. The blood on my leg flowed more. My head was spinning. At the hospital, the doctor treated my wound. The pain brought me back to reality. It wasn't all bad. I missed the exam. And I didn't have to come up with excuses for doing poorly. Better news, I wasn't the only one who missed the exam. Alex didn't show up for the language test. He bought a large bouquet of sunflowers mixed with baby's breath to bid farewell to Lisa. He ostentatiously posted, "You ask if it's worth it, but for me, you're everything," along with a picture of the flowers and Lisa's silhouette at the airport. Due to being injured and hospitalized, I didn't take the rest of the exams. The reporter who interviewed me learned about this and did a follow-up. Tears streaming down my face, I told the camera, "I don't know how it turned out like this. I prepared for so long." This interview was lengthy, with testimonials from neighbors. My parents became infamous citywide. Mom angrily called me, asking what I really wanted. Everywhere they went, people pointed and gossiped. Even my usually quiet dad began to get angry with her. I smiled and said, "I should be the one asking you what you really want. Do you have to take my life?" I couldn't help but think of the past when I said this. She really did want my life. Back then, she worried Lisa wouldn't have enough money abroad, and most of our family's money supported her. To outsiders, our family didn't seem that poor, and I couldn't even get a scholarship. At the start of college, they paid my tuition, but later they made me work part-time to support myself. She cried, "Maya, children from poor families need to grow up early. This is all we have. You need to understand us." During my 4 years in college, I hardly had a day of rest. I was constantly running between school and part-time jobs. From high school to graduation, I wore the same coat. My roommates couldn't stand it and gave me their old clothes. I never had a day without embarrassment. While my peers were full of youth and sunshine, I felt like a rat, afraid of others seeing my plight. Meanwhile, what was Lisa up to? At 19, she was using money my parents gave her to party from New York to Philly. When I saw her Instagram stories, I was furious and confronted Mom. She scolded me, saying Lisa was in a bad emotional state, cutting her wrists and going to the ER. She asked, "Must you compare yourself to her? Isn't death something to be afraid of?" I had long stopped wanting to live. If I truly wanted to die, I wouldn't just cut my wrist slightly. I'd have died long ago, and they wouldn't even know. She continued tearfully, "Maya, how could you scare me like this? What do you want me to do?" Her tears felt like quicksand, pulling me down. Children naturally love their parents. I was always tamed by her. A slap followed by a sweet date. But along with the money transfer, there was a long voice message. "My knees have been hurting, and I feel uncomfortable in my lungs, but I dare not see a doctor." She let her manipulative ways control me, pouring all her kindness into her original family. Naturally, I refused to take that money. Even during my student days, I used scholarships and part-time earnings to support them a bit. When did I start to wake up? Lisa seemed like a black hole, always needing others to sacrifice for her worth. She'd gotten used to it. In the US, she dabbled in forbidden things and drank excessively. The year I graduated, she had kidney failure due to uremia and needed a transplant. Mom didn't hesitate to ask me to be tested. She casually said, "Maya, you can live with one kidney. Your blood relatives. Please for Mom." At that moment, I was completely awakened. She didn't love herself, let alone me. I refused to let my life be used like an object. That was the first time I said no to her. She cursed me, wondering why it wasn't me who fell ill. In her repeated attacks, I fully woke up. I didn't ask to be born, nor did I owe anyone. No one was good to me, so I decided to be good to myself. I had to live for myself. Probably due to reincarnation, Dad began to change in some ways, but I didn't need it. He brought Mom to the hospital a few times, but I sent them away each time, yelling like a mad woman. "Is what you did to me not enough? My college entrance exam was ruined because of you. Are you satisfied?" They disliked me bringing this up, but I continued. "Mom, you're the best mother in the world. You let me experience a unique life as a slave. My parents weren't as scary as I thought, so what was I afraid of in my past life? And why hadn't I taken that first step yet? After a week in the hospital, I limped out. I went back to Grandma's old house, where there was $12,000 hidden in the mud bricks. She left it for me before passing. She was so foresighted, worried I'd struggle after she was gone. The little old lady really loved me. She'd take a long ride to see me, even giving Lisa pocket money to please her. Breaking open the mud bricks under the bed, I took out the money wrapped in cloth. Tears rolled down my face. Why couldn't I have come back earlier? In the previous life, I survived with this money. I used it to buy goods for street vending in college, but it only provided subsistence. I wanted to open an online store, but was afraid of losing all the capital. Can't live like that. This life isn't so troublesome. Rebirth means there's an information gap. I have some knowledge about stocks and remember the ones that surged in recent years. With my ID, I went to the bank to get a card and bought a secondhand phone online. Before the new semester started, this money turned into over $270,000. Suddenly, I felt confident. Money really boosts confidence. At this time, Mom, to make me succumb, hadn't given me a penny for 2 months. I felt free and went back to Grandma's old house. Dad came back from a business trip and asked how I'd been living. "What? Curious how I haven't died yet, dear Dad?" "Maya, can you not be so sharp?" Dad didn't know. Oh, Dad never knows. If I really starved to death, the grass on my grave would be 3 meters high. You might even cry at the wrong grave. Forget it. I don't want to argue with you. What are your plans next? Studying requires money, right? Stop arguing with your mom. He tried to give me money, but I quickly stepped back. Don't. I didn't take it. You guys are more vicious than loan sharks. If I have to pay it back with my life, I dare not take it. Besides, this is Lisa's money. I dare not even look at it. Maya, how long are you going to make a fuss? How have you lived without money? Are you just thinking to ask me now? You didn't know. Now the whole city knows I'm worse off than an orphan. An orphan even gets a monthly subsidy of $1,200. Everyone pities me. I go out with a bowl every day, and someone gives me food out of compassion. The more I spoke, the uglier his face became. In the end, there was even a hint of guilt in his eyes. Don't say it, Dad. You've benefited from this disaster. Hurry up. Have more kids with Mom, so everyone knows you're producing slaves for the family. In the future, when these slaves go out to beg for sympathy, you don't even have to give them leftovers. It's a lucrative deal. Lisa will be even happier. Dad couldn't bear to hear more and left $2,000. I didn't care. The next day, I went to the post office and sent it to his workplace with a sticky note. World's best dad might be undergoing changes. Worried if my good dad has lost his mind, thinking of becoming a father. But Dad, you need to understand your identity. Do you have the right to use your money? Is it necessary for you to care for your child? You're not an ordinary man. You're the ironclad son-in-law. You gave birth to a slave, not a child to cherish. Today you dare to give 2 big ones to the slave as a reward. Tomorrow, are you going to neglect the family? When that happens, your Lisa will resent you. Are you going to blame me again? People really sent food. When I returned to the village, everyone probably knew my situation and invited me to eat at their homes. Quite touching. It felt like a decaying body suddenly saw sunlight. But I didn't need to eat others' food. Before she passed, Grandma stored 3,000 kilograms of millet in the granary for me. She was really afraid I'd starve. Before she died, she tightly held Dad's hand and made him promise not to sell the millet. He agreed, and only after she glanced at me did she close her eyes. Not long after, Mom said the millet had been stored too long and wasn't worth much. So she and Dad sold over 1,000 kilograms, until Dad started having nightmares, dreaming of Grandma questioning him. Then he didn't dare to sell more. They never went back to the old house. Only I would come back during vacations to clean up. I didn't want to see the old house fall into ruin. Cleaning it as neat as a pin felt like Grandma was still there. The millet had been there over 3 years. Grandma had been gone over 3 years. The garlic chives she planted still grew lush. Plus the eggs sent by village aunties. I cooked garlic chives with eggs. I left a meal in front of Grandma's tablet, as if she was still with me. Grandma, why couldn't I come back earlier? In the yard, Grandma planted 7 peach trees. They used to bear little fruit, but this year they yielded exceptionally well. One tree bore 200 to 300 kilograms. My daily routine was to sell peaches at the market in the morning, eat lunch, and read in the old house in the afternoon, and check stocks in the evening. When Dad found out about the peaches, he came to me once and praised me. Maya, Dad knows you're sensible now, earning money on your own so you don't need Dad's money. Your mom also cares about you a lot. Are you feeling moved again, my good Dad? Do you know why the peach trees suddenly bore so much fruit this year? Grandma said you were too good to me, which made the peach trees bear more as a reward for you. I looked at him with a smile. The afternoon sky was eerily yellow, trees whispering, distant birds screeching. He looked around in panic, left a word, and hurried off. Afraid of ghosts? I'm not afraid. I'd really like to meet one. Being alone in this world is too lonely. Soon the new semester began. My situation was special. Although I didn't take the college entrance exam, my previous assessments and final exam scores weren't bad. The school teachers found me and offered to waive my tuition and sponsor my living expenses. I declined and asked the teacher to help someone in need. When they asked about my life, I made up a story about winning $100,000 in a scratch-off ticket. Talking about stocks would require too much explanation. The teacher was moved by my gesture and told me to keep my lottery win a secret, probably because she knew about what happened during the exams. In the end, my tuition was waived and the living expenses were given to another financially challenged classmate. As soon as school started, I saw Alex in the new class. They say enemies meet on a narrow road. He walked straight toward me, knocked on my desk, and told me to go out. He had something to say. Why should I go out just because you ask me to? I retorted. Fine. If you want me to say it here, even if it means losing face, go ahead. You're also a girl. How can you ruin another girl's reputation? Don't you feel guilty? Why should people feel guilty for speaking the truth? Those who benefit from others' misfortune have no guilt. Those who disturb students preparing for exams in the middle of the night have no guilt. Those who shamelessly take advantage have no guilt. Why should we, normal people, feel guilty? It's really unlucky to be in the same class as you. My desk mate, Chloe, a lovely girl, spoke with a red face after saying this, leaving Alex speechless. Alex used to be a good-looking, polite top student, and no one had ever mocked him like that. For a moment, he was lost for words, kicked over a nearby desk, and stormed off. As he reached the door, the owner of the desk, who had been in the restroom, returned and scolded, "Who has no manners and doesn't even bother to pick up a fallen desk?" Alex hesitated but didn't help, leaving quickly. Chloe and I helped pick up the books. She couldn't help but say, "See who escapes quickly is the one who's, huh?" During the year of repeating the grade, my days were quite ordinary. I wasn't flashy, perhaps cautious by nature. I was afraid of flaunting my wealth too much and drawing unwanted attention, as I was alone with no means of self-defense. So classmates even thought I was poor, often sharing snacks with me. Students willing to repeat a year were generally from ordinary families. Compared to others, the college entrance exam was crucial, even the only way out. Before the end of the first semester, the profits from stocks had exceeded $1 million. There was another crucial time point then, the start of the World Cup. In my previous life, I heard male classmates discussing it, and my dad bought lottery tickets. I only remembered 2 or 3 specific scores, but recalled the exact wins and losses. This year, the champions and runners-up were Germany and Argentina, and third and fourth were the Netherlands and Brazil. The reason I remembered clearly was that life got too busy afterward, and I never paid attention to previous tournaments. The matches I had strong impressions of were heavily invested in. Soon the over 1 million became over 10 million. Because of fear of drawing attention, I sometimes took a taxi to other districts to make purchases. I didn't let anyone know about this money. To be honest, when this money poured into my account, my hands trembled. I'd never seen this much money in my past or present life combined. With money, many things got easier. I hired tutors for extra classes on high school subjects and studied with classmates. I told them it was sponsored by a kind-hearted person. Of course, Alex wouldn't attend classes with us due to his pride. Also, he seemed very busy daily. I later learned from classmates that he now worked part-time. He wanted to save money to visit Lisa during winter break. Even the cleverest person, if they don't cherish their talent, will have it taken back. He went from being in the top 10 of his grade to beyond the top 100. Winter break came soon, and besides extra classes, we only had about a dozen days off. Naturally, Alex didn't go to see Lisa. His family was against him because he skipped the college entrance exam last time. They wouldn't give him extra money to pursue love. The money he earned from part-time jobs was mostly sent to Lisa out of concern or spent on gifts. Being tight on cash, he couldn't save enough for a plane ticket. During the break, our previous classmates returned. We had a class reunion at a karaoke bar. A classmate I hardly interacted with suddenly handed me a card. I was stunned. The card was from Daniel, the top student in our grade. In my memory, I'd hardly spoken to him. Also, he seemed to be a good friend of Alex. They were always together. I politely smiled and said, "Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not in such a dire situation." I didn't want to be involved in such matters. In the past life, I actually cared a lot about the possible relationship between Alex and Lisa. At first, I never thought we'd end up together, but I did have feelings for him. During high school, my living expenses were meager. Mom calculated precisely how much I should spend, and the cash I had was only enough for basic meals. Sometimes, I couldn't even afford sanitary pads during my period, and after swiping my meal card, I couldn't even get veggies. At that time, I was genuinely hungry and craved a better meal. I even went to restaurants to wash dishes secretly, packaging a meal with oily dishes, earning $5 an hour. I never dared to touch the money Grandma left. Frugality can lead to luxury, but it's hard to go from luxury back to frugality. I was afraid I'd use up the money without realizing it, and I had to go to college. What if they didn't pay my tuition? So I endured until one day I discovered my meal card would inexplicably have several $100s added monthly. I initially thought it was a school program to support students from impoverished backgrounds and felt motivated to study harder. The money improved my life a lot until one day I returned to the classroom early and saw Alex stealing my meal card from my desk. I was furious. I thought, I'm already so poor. Does he have no conscience? I wanted to follow him to catch him in the act, but then I saw him load $500 onto the meal card. I couldn't describe how I felt. I stood there in shock. Besides Grandma, no one had ever treated me like that. Those feelings grew involuntarily. Later, when I found out about him and Lisa, I was a bit sad. But because of this incident, my tolerance for him increased each time he took advantage. I became their messenger of feelings. He asked me to take care of Lisa, and I did. When she was sick, I cooked porridge for her, did her laundry, helped with homework. Even Mom praised me. That was when I was at my lowest. I even wished he hadn't given that money so I wouldn't have to bear this moral pressure. I always felt I should repay him. Later, when he and Lisa broke up, he was desolate, getting drunk daily. After my part-time job, I'd help him, encourage him, and take him home late at night. When I came back to life, I wanted to settle this cause and effect, so I gave him $10,000. At first, he was stunned. I mentioned the meal card incident, but he remained silent and didn't take the money. Later, when he and Lisa were struggling financially, I seized the opportunity to give him the money. He clenched his fists and eventually said, "Consider this a loan. I'll pay you back." There was no future. That person would no longer have any relationship with me. Chloe knew about the meal card incident, but always thought the money might not be Alex's. I mean, if it wasn't his, wouldn't he have said something? When Daniel handed over the card, Chloe was there. She intentionally exclaimed loudly, "Our Maya doesn't need it." Last time that Alex secretly put money on her card, and when she found out, she returned it multiple times. What? The money wasn't his. It was Daniel who asked him to put money on the meal card, a guy next to Daniel exclaimed. Just as he finished, Alex returned from the bathroom. He overheard and stuttered. "I didn't say that money was from me. The money you gave me, I said it was a loan." "Then why didn't you say it wasn't yours?" Chloe retorted. Alex stood there, face red, not knowing what to say. Seeing the strange looks, he lifted his foot to leave, but came back to me, saying, "Maya, I'll give it to you tomorrow." I didn't look at him, just bowed my head and peeled fruit, sharing it with Chloe. Alex couldn't stay any longer and fled. Suddenly, a slender hand passed me a tissue. Looking up, I saw Daniel under the light, his eyes shining like stars. I held the fruit, not knowing what to say. He reached out, took half the fruit, and said, "Thanks." Chloe winked at me teasingly, a fair-weather friend. "No, it's not like that." The more I explained, the more tangled it became. Daniel's eyes widened, unable to contain his smile. That was the first time I saw him smile so brightly. After the reunion, he drove me back to the hotel. Yes, I was no longer living at home. During breaks, I used to stay at Grandma's house in the countryside. This time, I came specifically for the reunion. Along the way, we chatted. He apologized for not being able to help during the exams, not knowing how except financially. In fact, he used to give Alex over $1,000 every month to help me, but Alex told him I didn't need it without saying why, which led Daniel to ask me directly, "Why, Daniel? I remember your financial situation isn't great either. Are you?" "Maya, you're so clever. Don't you know why I did it?" The cool night breeze lifted my skirt. I kept my head down, not daring to look him in the eye. Suddenly, a denim jacket was draped over my shoulders. "Maya, keep it up. I'm looking forward to being in the same university as you." Last time, I struggled to get into a somewhat famous university. Now starting over, I'd consider it a success if I could get into the same kind of school again. Could I dare to dream of going to the same university as Daniel? I awkwardly raised my eyebrows. He reached toward my face, hesitated, then withdrew, his ears turning red. I remembered Daniel wasn't in the best financial situation. I'd seen him tutoring to earn money. I felt embarrassed because I'd asked him for help with questions a few times. Since direct monetary help didn't feel right, when the peaches at the old house were ripe, I picked a big bag for him. We sat in front and back rows, so we naturally talked. Every year, I'd give him a big bag of peaches, and he always looked indifferent. I didn't want to bother him too much, but I never expected. Forget it. I shouldn't dwell on this. I need to focus on relearning and preparing for the college entrance exams. I stayed in the hotel for one night, and when I went downstairs, Daniel had already arranged breakfast for me. He'd gone back to his own school. Apparently, there was a lot of work to do. Truly a genius student, already busy in his first year of university. The breakfast was exactly what I loved. I felt I should be calm and collected. Love is precious, life even more so, especially now that I'm kind of a rich woman. After breakfast, I returned to the old house. In the afternoon, I received a package. I went to town by bike to pick it up. It was a sack of books and notes, meticulously organized. As I read, I marveled at how neat Daniel's notes were. They could be sold as top-notch study guides. During my review, I received a call from Alex. He wanted to meet and give me some money. To avoid emotional impact, I gave him my card number. No need to meet, especially since we were in school. Fate seemed to understand my intentions. When school started, Alex didn't show up. It turned out the money was meant for him to buy a plane ticket to meet Lisa. However, Lisa didn't wait for him and suspected him of cheating. She ended up cutting her wrists and was rushed to the ICU. Alex went on a 3-day hunger strike at home until his parents took him to see Lisa. Lisa's suicide did affect me because Mom came looking for me. She called one night and asked, "Lisa committed suicide. Didn't you know?" I responded, "I did. What do you want me to do?" Angrily, Mom said, "I bought fireworks and firecrackers." "Mom, are you even human?" I retorted, "Who knows? Maybe we need to see if you're still human." I assured Mom not to be angry, explaining the fireworks were to cheer her up. She abruptly hung up before I could say more. I was speechless, having so much more to say. Alex finally showed up at school after over a month. However, the news about him and Lisa had spread. One day, a male student spoke to him at lunch, and his mother saw them. She immediately scolded the student, warning him to stay away from Alex. She even threatened, "I'm telling you, stay away from him, or I'll take you both down." The student, afraid of his mother's extreme reaction, quickly dragged her to the cafeteria. Maybe Lisa was really in dire need of money. Alex started skipping classes, more to save money to send to her. His parents helped a few times, but being an ordinary family, they couldn't bear such a burden. They had to let him do what he felt necessary. Soon it was time for the college entrance exam again. I wasn't particularly anxious. The results wouldn't greatly influence my life anyway. Surprisingly, Mom bought me a dress and brought food the day the exam ended. Of course, I didn't dare to eat it. She praised me for being responsible and capable, saying she was relieved. It wasn't that she didn't care about me, she just had no choice. I empathized and said, "It's okay, you'll get used to it. Let me be the experiment. When you have more slaves later, you'll get numb." Mom, furious but unable to retort, watched the bustling examinees pass by. She finally said, "Maya, you'll understand Mom's intentions in the future. When you're done with the exam, I have something to tell you." I was curious about what could make Mom endure such humiliation today. The short 3-day exam period quickly ended. I felt like I was developing PTSD and even hired a female bodyguard during this time. I really didn't want any surprises or to go back to high school. As soon as I left the exam room, a tall, graceful young lady handed me a bag. Inside was a long gown and a gold bracelet. It was for Chloe's mom's birthday. Chloe's mom cooked delicious food and would bring us 2 portions daily last semester. I tried to pay her, but she always refused. So I bought Chloe 2 stocks, making up excuses to avoid her getting too into it, like saying it was a dream I'd had for 2 consecutive years. Nonsense, since I couldn't say I'd been reborn. Today was her mom's birthday, so I felt obligated to give her a gift. Upon seeing the bag, Mom reached to take it and said, "Maya, you're finally thoughtful. I don't blame you for the past." I quickly clarified it wasn't for her but a birthday gift for my classmate's mom. She retorted, "You buy for your classmate's mom but not for me. Did you give me anything for my birthday last year?" I explained, "I wasn't even born again last year. How could I have had the money?" And I reminded her that when I was in elementary school, I saved money to buy her flowers, but she suspected I stole it. When I was in 9th grade, I bought her a birthday cake from a part-time job, but she threw it on the ground. I reflected on these past incidents as I looked at my fierce mother, feeling a sense of calm returning. I said, "Mom, I need love like Lisa did. How could I not buy something to please you? I see everyone on the street happily calling out to their parents, and it's something I long for. The atmosphere between us became tense again. Her hand rose once more. I quickly hid behind the bodyguard, saying, "Look, Mom's going to take her anger out on me for Lisa again. That's why I'm so lacking in maternal love. My classmate's mom is so nice. She won't hit me, won't scold me, even cooks for me daily. I never thought I'd encounter such a good mom in my life." "Who is she?" "My hired bodyguard." "Where did you get the money?" "My recently recognized parents gave it to me." "Maya, are you really going to be this defensive against me? I'm your biological mother." "Yes, I have to be. If I could prove I'm not your biological child, I would have you jailed for intentional harm." She took a deep breath and finally said pleadingly, "In the past, Mom wasn't good. Mom has changed since then. I'll pay for your college tuition and living expenses, but Mom is begging you for one thing, okay?" So, what is it? "Lisa has kidney failure. She needs a kidney. Please have some compassion for Mom. Come with me for the compatibility test. Mom's only wish is this one thing." "Oh my goodness, how could this happen? If something happens to Lisa, Mom, what will you do without someone to take care of you in the future?" "Maya, are you going to throw a tantrum now? Are you going to argue with her? I just ask you one question. Will you help me?" "Of course, yes. If not, you won't have me as your mom from now on. All right?" I calmly took out my phone and started recording, then smiled and said, "Mom really knows how to scold. Seems like Mom wants to be famous like last year, huh?" She reached for my phone, but my bodyguard stopped her. I fearlessly locked eyes with her and said, "If Mom doesn't look for trouble with me, that would be the greatest blessing for Lisa. If I were Mom, I'd work harder to earn money. Let Lisa enjoy more luxuries, let her be your real child, so we can continue our fate. Why bother looking for trouble from a slave who has already betrayed you?" This completely angered her. She raised the milk tea she'd bought for me as if to throw it. I held my phone and smiled. In the end, her hand hesitated in midair, then she turned and left without looking back. As soon as the exam results were out, Daniel called. "How did you do, Maya?" "I'm sorry, I didn't get into the school you wanted me to, but..." Surprisingly excited on the other end, I almost doubted if I heard correctly. After all, Daniel rarely showed emotions in his speech. To avoid awkwardness, I quickly interrupted, "I got into a university near your school." "It's okay, we're in the same city, we'll have many opportunities to meet." "Actually, going there is to make money. If not now, when will I invest in a company, buy a house, right? But I can't say that directly, let's call it a beautiful misunderstanding. I'll charge into the future as an entrepreneur, a scientist with wealth. This year, my total income reached over $20 million. But Chloe doesn't seem very happy. She's puzzled how my grades were so good before repeating a year, but then weren't ideal. Even suspecting I hit my head when I fell down the stairs. I was happily looking at my report card. She put her hand on my shoulder and seriously said, "Maya, these grades shouldn't be yours. Do you want to work harder so we can go to the same school together?" I was touched but then rejected her. I have nothing now, but I have self-awareness. Suddenly thinking of Grandma, I felt sentimental, so I decided to visit her grave in the small town. The villagers were very welcoming, gave me fruits, and asked where the money came from. I said it was a reward from the school for doing well, along with assigning the bodyguard lady a teacher position. On the way back, passing through muddy country roads, I endured it, thinking to make up excuses in a year or two after college. I didn't deliberately inquire about what happened to Alex and Lisa, but they became so infamous that I could always hear gossip from other classmates. Alex had just finished the college entrance exams. He reluctantly got into an ordinary university, but didn't attend nor repeat a year. Instead, he went abroad to donate a kidney to Lisa. Truly a touching love story. I thought they'd stay abroad, and I'd never see them again in this life. But in my second year of college, they returned. By then, Alex's leg was lame. His days in Germany seemed very difficult. Without an education or special skill, after spending the money he took, he could only earn a living by washing dishes. Lisa had become accustomed to extravagant spending. Losing a kidney and living in hardship, his body couldn't endure. In less than a year, he started taking medication. After struggling for another year, they decided to return home. Upon returning, Alex hoped for support from his parents, but found out his mother had given birth to a second child and made it clear everything at home was for his younger brother. He had no connection anymore. The sudden turn was too fast. No matter how Alex pleaded, all he heard was, "You're grown up now. This is the path you chose. You can't blame us." Lisa initially wanted them to stay with my parents, but the house had been sold to pay for her surgery. So Alex had to rent a place and work part-time to support her. My parents were getting old, preoccupied. The allowance Mom gave was limited. Gradually, Lisa's mood became volatile. She self-harmed more, always pursuing Alex about whether he hated her. No matter how much he explained, she didn't believe him. Alex was overwhelmed with demanding jobs. He was already exhausted. She lost patience with him. The breaking point came when Alex found a part-time job at a bar. There, he saw Lisa kissing another man. He rushed over and punched the man, only to be tackled by the man's friends. In the chaos, someone smashed his left leg. The man later paid him some money as compensation. Lisa moved out of their rental house. As she left, she accused Alex, "I have no other choice. I feel like I'm dragging you down. I can only do this. I'm sorry in this lifetime. I'll repay you in the next." She left without sentiment, leaving behind a messy, moldy house. He saw his unfamiliar self in the mirror and wondered how he'd become like this. That night, after drinking heavily, he asked Lisa to meet, saying he still couldn't let her go and wanted to give her an unforgettable gift. Maybe Lisa was too confident, thinking Alex wouldn't blame her. She eagerly went, only to be splashed with sulfuric acid, almost destroying her entire face. After attacking Lisa, Alex rode away on his motorcycle. Ironically, the money for the bike came from the barman's compensation. With no plan, he slept under a bridge. He had a beautiful dream that night. In his dream, he didn't go to bid farewell to Lisa and cut off contact. He also dreamed of being with me. In the dream, I wasn't as sharp-tongued and harsh as now. I was gentle, comforting him, helping as much as I could. He realized he might have misunderstood. But for some reason, he couldn't say a word because the dream version of me was wonderful. Just before the wedding, Daniel came to find him. He gave them a wedding gift, a pair of expensive couple watches. He was really angry but couldn't find words. He thought it wasn't meant for himself. He was sure I was still on his mind. But what about me? Did I really like him? Or was I just touched by his help when I was in need, like topping up my meal card in secret? With these thoughts, he became increasingly uncomfortable. He often got angry with me over trivial matters, such as wedding invitations and seating arrangements. He repeatedly asked why I liked him. When I mentioned high school, he interrupted in a rage. Until Lisa's arrival, he erupted completely, being disgustingly hypocritical, and intentionally blamed everything on me. He really never intended to kill me. It was an accident. When he woke from the dream, he had everything figured out. The Maya in the dream must be real. But why? Why did she harm herself like that? Why was she so petty? He needed to confront her and get to the bottom of it. After Lisa was disfigured, Alex vanished. Daniel was anxious, coming to the apartment daily to take me to class and escort me home. I didn't know how to handle our situation. I somewhat despised how submissive I was to Alex in my past life. I kept asking myself if I really still liked people, or was it just gratitude driving me? I didn't want to waste Daniel's time and energy, so I chose to lay it all out. I handed him a card expressing my gratitude. It was a dreary, rainy day. He seemed to have lost weight. After I delivered the polite thanks, he just silently stared at me. Time seemed to freeze until he slid the card back, saying, "Maya, you're overthinking it. I don't need your repayment." Then he left. I sat watching his fading figure, feeling a sourness in my heart, though I couldn't place the reason. I was content with my life and didn't want changes. Time is misleading. Gradually, we almost forgot about Alex. Until one Christmas, when it snowed heavily, I was looking for my car in the basement. A hand quickly pulled me into the shadows, followed by a cloth with a sedative over my mouth and nose. I held my breath, not wanting to provoke him further. When he wasn't paying attention, I pressed the volume buttons on my phone forcefully, as my hands were bound, and I couldn't see. Despite multiple attempts, I couldn't make a call until Alex was driving and the screen lit up. I quickly answered, pretending to regain consciousness, and desperately said, "Alex, where are you taking me?" You're awake now? Luckily, you woke up. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun. He didn't say more, and neither did I. I kept biting my tongue to stay alert until he took me to an abandoned factory. I shouted, "This is the textile factory in the suburbs. This place has been abandoned for a long time. What are you taking me here for?" I turned to prevent him from seeing my phone screen. "Maya, what can I do? Our wedding wasn't even complete, right? Maya, you said you wanted to be with me forever. Why are you so heartless?" "Are you crazy? What are you talking about?" "I don't understand." "You don't understand. So you made me give up my college entrance exam to send Lisa." "Alex, are you insane? You think I made you give up your exam? Who was calling me dozens of times, harassing me?" "Oh, right, I guess I never told you the exact location and flight information. If it wasn't for your social media post back then, would I have?" "What I post is my freedom. How come someone like you can still appear in this world after reincarnation?" "Maya, I might not be able to win over you now, but you're more likable than last life. Let's finish what we didn't complete this time, okay?" "Wait." As he spoke, he pinched my neck and covered my face with a drugged cloth. When I woke again, it was when Alex bit my neck. Sharp pain instantly sobered me up. I was already dressed in a white wedding dress by him. He dragged me up the stairs. I struggled fiercely, memories from my last life flashing before my eyes. Intense panic enveloped me. For a moment, I even thought of ending it with him. My hands were tied, and I could only bump into him while he was in a fit of rage. He was lucky not to roll down, but caught me by reaching out. I heard a crack in his ankle. He squatted, holding his foot and groaning. While he was distracted, I tried to run, but he pulled me back. He swung his arm and slapped me. My ears rang, and my vision blurred. "Maya, why are you so disobedient? Does it hurt?" "My heart really hurts, you know?" Pretending to be compassionate, he held my face, using his thumb to wipe the blood from the corner of my mouth. I bit down with all my strength, my mouth filled with a metallic taste. He kept struggling, but I didn't let go. He began hitting my head with his elbow. I kept biting until he kicked me in the stomach. I curled up from his kick, spitting out a chunk of skin. Alex winced in pain. Took a while to recover. Seeming unsatisfied, he walked toward me, grabbed my hair, forced me to look at him, and slapped me a few times. My head was dizzy, and my resistance weakened. He dragged me to the rooftop. Gripping my neck tightly, he said, "Maya, let's start over and never hurt each other, okay?" I didn't say anything, still trying to struggle. He dragged me to the edge of the rooftop step by step. I suddenly understood his intention. He wanted us to jump together. He was truly mad. If I had a chance again, I'd kill him at the beginning. Just when I was hopeless, Daniel's voice rang out. "Alex, let her go. We can talk about other conditions." He cautiously watched as Alex held me. "You're here too. How dare you come? Daniel, my biggest regret is being like a brother to you. Why did you come to flaunt that watch? If you didn't come, why would I have lost control with her like that? How did it come to this between me and her?" Daniel seemed confused, but chose to go along. "So, you hate me the most, right? Then I should be the one you seek revenge on, right? Let her go. I'll let you seek revenge." "Daniel, this is none of your business. It has nothing to do with you," I yelled out of control. "Seems like you two have fallen for each other." He pulled me with one hand, threw a dagger with the other. "Then stab yourself twice, and I'll consider it. Otherwise, I'll push her off right now." Daniel picked up the dagger, gave me a glance, then stabbed without hesitation. My mind went blank. Tears flowed uncontrollably. With that stab, his beige sweater was stained with blood. "Continue faster," Alex urged excitedly. The second stab came quickly. He could hardly stand, half kneeling. Seeing him weak, Alex pounced on him, gripping his neck. "Aren't you so tough? How come you look like a half-dead dog now? My life is ruined. Why should you all have it easy? Let's go together." Before he could finish, I picked up the dagger and stabbed him in the lower back. He looked at me in shock. I broke free from the ropes binding me, at the cost of breaking my left thumb. Sirens could be heard in the distance. I couldn't care less. I stumbled toward Daniel. The intense pain in my hand seemed to numb me. I gently helped him up, yelling, "Help! Someone help! Come quick!" I tried to stop his bleeding, but the blood flowed like a dam bursting, staining my hands crimson. His eyes were about to close. Tears rolled down uncontrollably. That one stab left his entire body covered in blood. Faster, let's continue, urged Alex. Daniel was in surgery for 6 hours. I hadn't been this scared since Grandma passed away. Thankfully, he made it through. Chloe came to see us, crying in shock. I was mostly unharmed, just bruises and my left thumb aching. On the third day, he was allowed liquid food. I had some bland porridge made and fed it to him with one hand. He looked at me awkwardly and couldn't help but say, "Daniel is so rich. Why bother feeding me yourself? You could just pay someone." I didn't expect him to be so stingy, still remembering my previous refusal, but seeing his pale lips, I carefully coaxed him, saying, "I can't trust anyone else. How can I relax if someone else feeds you?" He turned his head away. I put down the spoon, reached out, and pinched his ear, saying, "So I carefully asked myself, how could it be just gratitude? It's because I like you too much that I dare not decide easily." His ear between my fingertips gradually turned red and warm. He still didn't turn his head. I leaned over, kissed his ear, then his chin. He looked back at me in surprise as I kissed his lips. "Daniel, thank you. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for coming to me again and again." Alex was sentenced to 20 years for his crimes. Except for Lisa, who visited him with her head covered, no one cared about his fate anymore. His crimes were judged by the law, and we had to start anew. Sometimes people can't confine themselves. I deliberately cut off all ties with the past. I don't want to recall the bad things or make myself sharp and crazy. As for my parents' future issues, I handed them over to the appropriate authorities. Someone would give them a monthly allowance, and I no longer contacted them. Unexpectedly, in this life, I received my mother's apology for the first time. She desperately tried to find me, spending a long time before knowing where I went to college. She wanted to see me urgently, but when she came, Daniel and I had already left. Daniel went abroad for further studies, and I went to take care of overseas business, all to relax in a new environment. She searched for everyone she could find, even finding Chloe. Chloe said she was a bit strange, repeatedly confirming with her whether I was still alive. She said she just wanted to see me once. I didn't agree. I only had someone pass on a message to her. "I've already repaid the life that belonged to my mother once. No need to meet again in this life." After that, I knew little about what happened next, only that she kicked Lisa out. She wrote many letters to me, but didn't have my address. It's too late now. It doesn't matter anymore. I will never look back. Perhaps due to sudden emotional fluctuations, one night, I had a very long dream. I dreamt of Daniel going crazy after I died in the previous life. He kidnapped and imprisoned Alex, torturing those who harmed me. It wasn't until the police found them that Alex was sentenced for accidental murder and Daniel for intentional injury, where he attempted suicide many times until his mentor found him to study time-traveling technology. Then he found the will to survive. In my dream, I stayed with him for a long time. Daniel spent a full 20 years trying to study time travel without success. In his old age, he became obsessed with theology, praying for a chance. He stopped studying time travel and focused on other research and inventions. He donated the money he earned from patents in my name. Before he left, he seemed to see me and said, "Maya, I've done everything I could, but it seems there's no turning back." Upon waking, I looked at the person sleeping beside me and felt it was all just a dream. Was he really that stubborn? What good do I have? Daniel would never tell Maya that he'd fallen for her even before she knew. At that time, his father had just passed, and their family conditions weren't good. Daniel went to play at his grandmother's house in another village. Passing by her house, he saw large red peaches in the yard. He was afraid of being laughed at if he stayed longer, so he quickly left. Suddenly, a girl stopped him. "You're Granny Mary's grandson, right? I'm Maya. Can you help me pick 2 peaches? I'll treat you." Hearing this, he happily climbed the tree and picked a lot for her. She went back in and brought several bags to fill up a big bag for him. When leaving, he caught sight of a large basin of bright red peaches in her living room. Those peaches were the best he'd ever eaten. Later, when his grandmother fell seriously ill, he and his mother found out late. When they entered the house, they saw fresh food on the table she hadn't finished. These were the dishes she sent every day during her winter vacation. She didn't seem to think it was a big deal. She always smiled like a little sun. Later, he learned that her life wasn't as he imagined. In high school, when his mother's job improved, he took on tutoring jobs to contribute. On the other hand, for the whole semester, he never saw her cook meat dishes. He wanted to know why, but was afraid of disturbing her. In the end, he could only choose this method. He originally thought he wasn't asking for anything, but when Alex told her that they liked each other, he'd never been so irritable. But can liking be forced? Does he have to use blackmail to seek reward? She was so clear-cut, as if she would give a bunch of peaches as thanks for solving a few problems. He thought, those peaches from 2 years ago were really sour.